Hi guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. Today is Tuesday the 18th of June, and yeah, it's been a little over 2 weeks since I last podcast. I was planning on podcasting last week, but if you follow me on Instagram you'll probably know, if you saw my post from so not this past weekend, just gone the weekend before, I was very ill and I spent most of last week recovering and then trying to catch up with work, and it was horrible. I'll get to that more later in this episode towards the end, but I just wasn't feeling up for it, to be quite honest. I really wanted to podcast, but it's just last week, but I just didn't have the energy, so we are here today. And I am without show notes again because apparently I like to fly by the seat of my pants, and we shall see how this goes. I'm not sure if I introduced myself. My name is Mina, and you can find me online as Knitting Expat on Instagram, Mina Phillip on Ravelry, and we also have a podcast group on Ravelry for this podcast, and that's the Knitting Expat Podcast in the podcast tab on Ravelry. How many times can I say podcast and Ravelry in one sentence? And you can find my designs on Ravelry as Knitting Expat Designs, and links to all of these things are down below this video, including the show notes. I will try and include as detailed show notes as I can below, and yeah, let's get stuck in. So I have a few announcements to do at the beginning, some new patterns that I've released or are coming out soon, and then we have a finished object to talk about, some works in progress to talk about, we have some spinning to talk about. Actually, we have a fair amount of spinning to talk about, but I'll try not to dawdle too much on the spinning content. And then I have a couple of spinning and knitting plans that I want to talk to you guys about as well. And then we have some acquisitions, nothing huge, a couple of small things, but I wanted to share them nonetheless. And then Knitalong and a giveaway news, which might end up being like spread out throughout anyway, because some of the things I'm working on are Knitalong related. And yeah, and then that's it really. And then I'm just going to round out with a bit of what's been going on lately. And yeah, okay, so let's get stuck in with some announcents. First up, the next pattern in the Minilicious Pattern Club has been released, and I can't believe I haven't podcasted yet in June, so it's now the 18th and I'm really just getting around to telling you about it. And this is the pattern. This is the porthole cowl, and it was knit out of minis from Adelaide Cottage. And I'm trying to remember the name that she gave the set. I think it was something like Coastal Sky, Coastal Seas. Can't remember, something along those lines, but really beautiful. There was one set that went from, I guess, like a dark brown all the way through to a lighter brown. And then there was another set that went from dark blue all the way through to a lighter blue at this end. Oh, sorry. Yeah, at this end here. So the way I worked it was I alternated the mini skeins, and then the recipe for how you work that out is in the pattern. So I use one mini skein set as the foreground colour and one mini skein set as the background colour. It's knit as a tube, so it's all around, and then when you get to the end you graft it together at the end with using Kitchener stitch all around, so then it's all contained. All your ends are contained, there's no wrong side, it's all right side. And then you can wear it either as a single loop, or you can also wear it as a double loop. Now I knit mine using 8 20-gram minis, so 4 in each set, which gives you a nice snug sort of cowl when it's double looped. It's comfortable, but it's still like nice and snug around your neck. But if you did it with 5 of each in each set, then your double loop will be a little bit looser, and so that's just depending on your preferred fit, I guess. Also, if you had 5, you could cast on more stitches, so you could have your cowl be wider. Again, there's instructions for how to do that in the pattern as well. And there are also other modifications that you can do in terms of how you use colours. You can use one mini skein set and then combine that with a contrast colour. So your contrast colour could be a solid, say grey for example, and that could be your foreground colour, and then you can use your minis for your background colour, which in this case are the blue. It's the blue set in the background. I think that would be really fun. You could use a solid and then like a self-striping as the background colour, or a gradient as the background colour. There are so many options for ways you can mix this up. And yeah, I just think it's a really fun cowl. It's really simple. Once you're a few repeats in, you'll have the pattern memorized. If you can read your knitting, it's really simple to work on as well. So it would be a great travel project, great on the go project, because it's small, it's compact, it's easy to take around with you as a knitting project. So yeah, really happy with this one. Really fun knit, and the yarn was lovely to work with as well. And I know there were a couple of other dyers who put together kits of this. Hummingbird Yarns was another one, and she's based in the UK, so if you are based in Europe, that might be an easier dyer to purchase from because of shipping and customs, etc. So that was the news for that. And in line with the Minilicious Pattern Club, I wanted to give you guys the information for yarn requirements for the next pattern coming up in July, because I didn't want you to not know what to expect, and I thought it'd be better if I can talk about it on the podcast as well as posting about it on Instagram. So for this next one, actually you really don't need a whole lot of yarn. I had 5 20-gram minis from Lavender Loon, who sponsored the next pattern. And I still have all of this left. I finished the project, it's done, but I still have a whole lot left. I think in total for this project, I probably used less than 5 grams in total of each. Let me just check. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a lot. I just dropped something. Yeah, I used somewhere in the region of about 5 to 7 grams of each of these skeins. So you could do it with 10-gram minis as well. You don't have to use 20-gram minis for this. You can use 10-gram minis. It will also be perfect for scraps and leftovers because it uses such a small amount. And then of the main color, this was actually a sport weight, but you can obviously the pattern's written for it all to be fingering weight. I just had the colorway I wanted to use in sport weight, and I didn't think there was much point in asking Sam to send me another skein of the same colorway in a different weight of yarn when this would work just as well. So, you know, I used around 30 grams, I think, in total of this one as well. So realistically, you could do it with a 50-gram skein and 5 10-gram minis and still have yarn left over at the end of it for this project. So it's a great stash buster, it's a great scrap buster. Like if you're one of those people who knits shorty socks and has half a skein of sock yarn left at the end of it, or around 40 grams left at the end of it, then you can easily use one of those leftovers for this pattern. It's a great one for that. Actually, I have so much of this leftover, I'm thinking of putting together a little kit with the leftovers for someone to give away at some point with the pattern once it's released. But I'm not sure, I don't know when I'll get to that. But yeah, really don't need a whole lot. As you can tell, I went with very sort of autumnal colors for this one. And yeah, you can obviously, I went with a slightly variegated tonal color as the main color, as as the main color, but you don't have to do that. You can go for a solid, you go for a tonal, you can go for whatever you want. Again, I think this is one that would be quite fun paired with the self-striping as the contrast if you didn't have the minis and you wanted to use like a self-striping instead, especially if you've knit a pair of self-striping socks and you have a ton of yarn left over. Be a great way to use up those self-striping scraps without needing a whole lot of yardage. So I'm excited about that one. I hope you guys are looking forward to it, and I hope this gives you a little bit of a tease for what's to come and gives you a better idea of yarn requirements for the next pattern so you can get prepared. If you have any more questions about yarn requirements and stuff, feel free to leave a comment or ask the question in the Minilicious Pattern Club chatter thread in the group, and I'll be happy to answer that there for you guys. And the final admin thing I want to talk about is this shawl. Blowing out a little bit on camera. Yeah, so this is my first hand-spun shawl design that is almost ready to be published. I'm just finalizing name ideas at the moment. I asked this morning for name suggestions on Instagram and had some really good suggestions so far. One of them that stuck with me wasn't the whole name, but one particular word in the suggestion was harmony, and I really like that as an idea for the name because the way this shawl is designed, it's 3 sections. It's in 3 defined sections. There's a garter section, a texture section, and then there's like a rib section at the end. But it's designed so that you can knit each section for as long or as short as you'd like, You can use as much or as little yarn as you want in each section. I used one big 200 gram skein for this, but you can easily use 2 or 3 skeins of commercially spun yarn in whatever weight you want. Realistically, you can knit this at any gauge. Yeah, so I thought Harmony was quite a nice name for it, because the sections all like harmonize with each other and work really well. And yeah, I'm really excited about this one. So hopefully by the end of the week this will be published. We will see. Probably tomorrow. If I'm going to get it published, it'll have to be tomorrow, because the rest of my week is going to be quite busy, and more about that later. But yeah, so that's the last little bit of admin news. I want to let you know that this will be coming out this week, and there'll probably be a little coupon code for it over on my Instagram. So if you're not following me there, I highly recommend that you do. Usually when I publish a new design, there's a little promo for the first few days, so you can get it at a bit of a discount. Alright, so let's move on to knitting. Well, that was all knitting as well, but you know what I mean. Finished objects. I only have one finished object to share with you guys this week, and that is this pair of socks. The yarn for this is from Tiny Human Knits. It was kindly sent to me as a gift, and I really love how this is knit up. This is in the Folklore Colourway, and I used she also sent me what's the word, contrasting yarn for the cuffs, heels and toes, so I did that as well, which I thought was really fun, and the colours worked really well with the rest of the colours in the striping, in the stripes in the yarn. I cannot put sentences together today, it seems, but these will be a gift for a friend of mine, and I'm pretty sure she's gonna love them. So yeah, that's my one and only finished object for this week. Yeah, I've been on a real spinning kick lately. Been very inspired with my spinning, which I'm totally loving, and I'm just going with it right now. But I'm also looking forward to getting to more knitting. I have some knitting plans, which I will get to in a bit, to share with you guys. So, works in progress. I'll start with the socks, because I always have a pair of socks on the go, and these are in my Hide and Hammer wax canvas project bag, which I absolutely love. This was also a gift that I was sent to try out. It was a new sort of shape and style of bag for them, so New, who's the designer and maker behind these bags, wanted me to try them out and let her know what I thought, and I absolutely love them. I love zipper project bags. They are my favourite, especially ones with a nice handle. And yeah, so in here I have this pair of socks. And you may remember a couple of podcasts ago I showed you some yarn that I got from Mad Fuzzy Yarns, based out of Maine in the US, and she sources the fleeces herself, picks them up, drives them to a local to her mill. It's like a one-man mill, and they mill the yarn special for her, and then she dyes them herself. So it's a real labour of love, these socks, this yarn, sorry, that I'm converting into socks. And so this is her sock base. This is her tag. Marta is the dyer's name. I should have said that sooner, I'm sorry. So this is her sock base. It's pretty tough. It's 80% East Frisian wool and 20% Firestar nylon, 400 yards and 100 grams, and it's the Gypsy Queen colourway. So it's this fun sort of speckled pink colour. I'm not usually a pink person, but I actually really liked how it looked with all these other colours speckled throughout. Some fun flashing going on. I really don't mind flashing and pooling in socks. I feel like it's fun, it's fine, it's socks. For garments and stuff, that would really bother me, but for socks it's fine. And this is the yarn. I hand wound it because I was at my parents' when I was winding this, so I didn't have my Swift and ball winder. And I was so sick, it was all I could do to just wind that yarn. That was literally all I did that weekend, knitting wise. It was not fun, but again, I'll talk about that later. But so that's my sock project at the moment. I'm about 10 rows away from popping in heels, so that should be finished probably by the next time I record a podcast. And my next work in progress is Perry's sweater. So you guys will have seen me working on this for the last couple of podcasts, and we are finally done with the body. It has a neck and everything. So obviously no sleeves yet, but the body is finished and it fits in perfectly. fits him so well, and I'm so happy with it. I'm so excited and really, really chuffed with how this has turned out. It fits him perfectly, laid out against his other sweater. It looks like a really good fit. The armhole isn't as deep as on the sweater I modelled this on based on his feedback and what he wanted. And the neckline isn't too open either, which I was a bit concerned about. I was really worried because that was something he's quite fussy about. He doesn't want like a really open neckline. So I was quite happy with how that turned out. Now this is a non-superwash yarn, so it's by Lolodidit. I'll tell you about the yarn first. It's by Lolodidit. It's on her Guernsey sport base in the Rumplestiltskin colourway. Now it's a non-superwash yarn, which is great, which means it shouldn't stretch too much when it's washed. However, it does have silk in it, and silk is naturally quite drapey. So, and it gives it an extra sort of level of softness that just merino on its own doesn't quite have. It's really interesting. It's a really lovely hand to it. And it also has a really nice sheen. I don't know if you can pick up on that. It's not a lot of silk. I think it's only 15 or 20% silk. So it's not a huge amount, but enough to really add some nice luxury to this yarn. And I'm writing up this pattern. The pattern is actually all written up to the sleeves. I just need to write up the sleeve section of the pattern and get it tech edited, and then I'm hoping to get it out to testers in early July, because I want to give them as much time as possible to test knit it. Then yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, with this one, I'm not actually planning on wet blocking it at the end, especially since it fits so well right now, pre-blocking. And it doesn't really, I don't really feel like it needs much of a blocking. The stitches, because it's the base of the sweater in seed stitch, it's a fairly flat stitch pattern in general. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't show up, it doesn't, you know, it looks pretty good pre-blocking as it is. So I think what I'm going to do once it's finished is I'm just going to steam it and maybe block a little bit, like maybe the neckline or something, wherever, just a patch block it, kind of. So like, I'll lay it out, I'll steam it. If that's not enough, then I'll maybe just spray down bits that might need a bit more of a block with just a spray bottle of water, and let it dry like that, because I really don't want it to stretch at all from the size it is now. I really like the fit, and I know through wearing it, it's just going to naturally stretch out a little bit over time. Another fun fact for you guys, I don't really wash my sweaters very often, if at all. I have some sweaters that I finished several years ago and I've never washed them because they don't need it. They're not smelly. Wool naturally doesn't smell, and if it does get a bit smelly, you just need to air it out and then it's fine. It's naturally resistant to a lot of things, so I haven't found that I've needed to wash them very often because they're fine. And the only time I've had to wash them is when Layla's thrown up on them, which hasn't happened too often, thankfully. Or, you know, and if they get dirty, I just spot clean where they're dirty, and that's all it needs. Especially because my sweaters are on the larger side of things. I like knitting them longer. I'm not the smallest person in the world, so my sweaters are on the larger side. I'm generally middle of the range when it comes to sweater sizing for like knit patterns and stuff, but still, like, it's a sizable amount of knitting, and like I said, I tend to knit them longer in the arms and the body than a pattern typically calls for, and so they're quite heavy, and I don't like wet blocking them frequently because that's just more opportunity for them to get stretched out. So anyway, that was a slight tangent but somewhat relevant. And the next project I have to show you is a new cast on, new since the last time I spoke to you guys, as well as the socks, which were new since the last time. Is I'm knitting another version of the Sweet Pea dress for Layla in this really rich red colour. It's showing up a little bit more bright than it is in real life. It's just it's really nice, dark, deep red. And I'm using Knit Picks Lindy Chain in the Hollyberry colourway. It's actually a really affordable yarn. I checked their website at the moment. Some of the colours are on sale for like around £2 a ball. So it's around £2 to £5 a ball, 50 grams, 180 meters, I believe. 180 yards, sorry, and 50 grams. It's 70% linen and 30% Pima cotton, and it's a chainette construction. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see the detail in that very well. You can kind of see that it's a sort of a chain construction rather than a typical plied construction. which has made it an interesting knit, to say the least. Sometimes I do find like my needle's going through the yarn rather than under it or around it, but it's not a big deal. It's really not that difficult to correct as you're going. And I'm following the instructions for the 3 to 4 year size. I did something really naughty and I didn't swatch because I was like, I have plenty of yarn, because I actually bought 7 balls of this with the intention of knitting myself a summer top, but I never did. Clearly I bought this yarn before Layla was born, so if I hadn't done it in the last 2 to 3 years, it's not going to happen. So so I was actually going to destash it, but then I thought Layla's actually naturally very warm all the time. Like, she doesn't really need a lot of layers when it's cold, and so woolen dresses are just not very practical for her. As much as I would love her to be able to wear more like woolen like outfits rather than just outer layers like hats and jumpers and sweaters and stuff, she's just not that, she doesn't get that cold. She's naturally very warm, much like my husband, and so she needs more layers to be able to regulate temperature with, like, especially in the winter, to regulate temperature when going out and coming in and stuff like that. And definitely in the summer, there's no way she can wear a woolen dress in the summer. So I thought a linen cotton blend might be a really good option for her. But it's coming out, and I haven't measured the chest circumference, but for the 3 to 4 year size, it's only supposed to be 21 inches because it's 22 inches, because it's supposed to have negative ease. But I'm pretty sure that is more than 22 inches circumference. So we shall see. It's not a big deal if it's a bit big. She can always wear a t-shirt under it or a vest or something, and she'll grow into it. I picked a slightly bigger size, the 3 to 4 year size, because I wanted her to be able to wear it for a couple of years and not just one summer, of which this summer so far is looking pretty miserable. I mean, it's just been raining outside all day. We've not been having a great run of luck with the sunshine. And also I'm a bit concerned that it might be a bit see-through. Like, it doesn't look that bad on screen now, but when you look at it in person, it does look quite see-through. So I think this is one that she's going to wear shorts underneath it, and like I said, maybe a tank top or a vest or some sort of t-shirt underneath it. And so this should just be like a colourful layer on top. And so she's seen me working on this yesterday, and I told her it was for her because she liked the colour. Obviously it's red, she loves it. She's obsessed with red, if you're new. I said to her that I was making her a dress, and she said dancing dress. She's obsessed with dancing and wearing a dancing skirt or her dancing dress. I don't know where she gets it, but she just likes dancing along to like pop music on the radio and stuff, and she just likes having something on that she can swish around in. So she loves wearing her dresses at the moment, and my mum made her a little play skirt just to play dress up in and stuff, and it's quite weighted at the bottom just because it's like got all this like heavy embroidery on the bottom, and it weighs down the bottom of the skirt, and she likes wearing that to dance in because it does like a proper little swish and stuff. So she's calling this her dancing skirt now. When she sees me knitting on it, she's like, Layla, dancing dress. And I was like, yes it is your dancing dress, it will be. So I'm actually just coming up to the end of the second ball, so it's almost 100 grams in this now. And the marker here, this little orange marker here, that marks where I hit 5 inches in the skirt section. So for this size in the pattern, I'm supposed to knit the skirt up to, it's my own pattern, the Sweet Pea dress. I don't know if I said that or not. It's one of my own designs that I originally knit and designed for Layla when she was a little baby. The photo on the pattern is from when she's only 4 months old, and she's so tiny compared to now. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting all like what was I saying? Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, for this size I need to knit the skirt for about 16 inches before I do the bottom edging. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure it up against one of her current dresses that fits her well and is long enough. I'm going to knit it to close to that length, and then knit the bottom edging and finish it off. So all I need to do at the back is add on the buttons, which in hindsight, looking at the size of this neckline for this size, I could have just like omitted the button section altogether, because and it's quite stretchy at the top. This would have fit over her head fine. I added the button placket section at the back more for the smaller sizes, because babies' heads can be quite big compared to their body size. So But yeah, and it's a nice little decorative feature to have at the back there. So I've got some red buttons, which I will let Layla pick which ones she wants, and I'll pop those on there for her. Probably won't end up using them to get it on and off her, and it could be reversible. You could have the buttons be at the front of the dress. The shape, there is no shaping, like the front and back are the same. The only difference is there's buttons on the back. And the only reason this is the back is because this is where you're knitting in the round with the garter stitch, so you get that seam. Garter stitch, when you knit in the round, you get this little seam forming at the beginning of the round. So, you know, if you don't mind that, you can easily have the buttons be the front of the dress. And I think also the buttons, having buttons helps you identify which is the front and back, because like I said, there's no differentiation between that in the shaping of the neckline. So yeah, that's my other current project that I'm working on, and this is only about 3 days worth of work and not 3 full days of knitting. This is like partial days. So this will probably be finished by the weekend, maybe, depends how much knitting I get done. Like I said, I've got a couple of day trips coming up this week, so I'll have plenty of knitting time then for the socks and for this dress, so probably be finished soonish. So that's it for the knitting, finished objects and works in progress. I think we shall move on to spinning. I have another mountain of handspun to go through with you guys today, and I will try to keep it short and sweet and not take too long. There's some experiments in here and there are some bigger projects in here, so we shall go through this. So first of all, the work in progress spin that I showed you last week is now a finished spin. I wanted to show this to you guys, and I'll explain why there are 2 skeins in a moment. So this first skein was, I think I spoke to you guys about it, that I was planning on 2-plying the row lags, and so I started doing that, and I realized very quickly that the colors weren't lining up after the first 2 row lags were like equivalent on the singles were spun together. When it got to next to it, it started skewing quite badly, to the point where I realized that almost all of the yarn was going to be barber poled. And so I decided to stop, and I pulled that fibre off the bobbin and just wound it off into a small skein. So this is 32 grams, got 86 yards or 78 meters of a 2-ply. So these were from the row lags that I made inspired by a field of flowers. And for the rest of the skein, rest of the yarn, I chain plied it to keep the colours together as much as possible. Now I wasn't super careful with the chain plying. Lesson to myself, do not ply your yarn, especially if you want to maintain colours, when you're tired and it's late at night. Leave it for the morning. So I wasn't super careful at the colour changes, not to have lots of overlap in them. So this one still has a fair bit of barber poling in it, but not as much as it would have done if I'd left it as a 2-ply. And so this is 88 grams, 160 yards, 147 meters. So this, I haven't checked it, but this is definitely looking like a DK to worsted weight in the chain ply, which is a 3-ply, and the 2-ply is looking more like a solid DK after washing. So that's these ones. Not sure what these will be yet. This was really more an experiment in the row lags for myself, playing with that concept of taking inspiration from a photo that I saw, and also just to see how things would spin up. It was definitely a learning experience, and definitely learning for the chain plying aspect of it as well. Then, I'm trying to think, what did I spin next? I think next I spun this. This is actually one of my favourite things that I've spun. I absolutely love it. This was one of the very first set of row lags that I'd ever purchased from Felview Fibres, and hands down, she's my favourite person to buy row lags from. In fairness, I've not tried a whole lot of row lags from loads of different people, but I've tried a few, and her row lags, hands down, so worth the money. So worth it. So beautifully prepped, beautiful to spin. And this was a gradient set that she had made up. It was 100 grams, I think. It's about 100 grams. Okay, I had 126 grams, so over 100 grams of, and it was all just 100% merino, and it was in the Medusa gradient is what she called it. So it started with this light blue, and then it progressed into like a yellow, and then transitioned from this yellow to the orange, to the reds, to the purples, and then to this dark blue. It's absolutely gorgeous. There were 16 rolags in the set, and each rolag was a slightly different color as it progressed through this gradient. And as I was spinning this, Layla was sat on my lap for a portion of it, and there was one, when I first started spinning it, I was doing the light blue section, and Layla had found the red rolag in the box of rolags, and decided she had to hold. Hello Hugo, this is Hugo for those of you who are new. He is one of my 2 cats, and typically when I podcast he likes to come and inject himself into the situation. I think he thinks I'm a little bit crazy just sat here chatting to myself, and he wants to make sure I'm okay. I'm just trying to find, definitely had a bit where Layla helped with the spinning, and the red rolag got a little bit close to my singles, and a little bit of the fibre caught on to the yarn I was spinning, and so there's a little patch of red fibre in with the blues section. It's Layla's contribution to the spinning. It's a little patch of red that caught up with the blues. So that was Layla's contribution to this bit. Oh, thank you for sneezing on me, Hugo. I really wanted that. Cat sneezels. Perfect. Yeah. Twist this back up. Definitely not as pretty looking as it was the first time I did it, but hey ho. Oof. Hugo, what are you doing? Okay, definitely not as pretty as the last time I had it skeined up, but you get the idea. All right, Hugo, we're going to talk about the situation. You've been attention. Okay, so one of the next things that I spun was this skein of yarn, and so this was from a gradient bat set from Spin Jones, another fibre dyer producer that I absolutely love her stuff as well. Her fibres are beautifully prepped, and so these were 2 gradient mini bats, 50 grams each, and so they were prepared to be basically identical to each other. They went from a blue to a green gradient. So what I did was I spun one end to end as is. I sort of rolled it up as a row log and spun it end to end. Hugo, what are you doing? And the other one I split up into 4 smaller gradient sections and spun those end to end to end. So I did kind of like a 2-ply fractal, and I did a separate vlog video about this. I'm not going to go into too much more detail about this one. Let's see how this has turned out. I really love how this turned out. And so it was a Merino and 5-star blend, and I got 105 grams, 351 yards, 321 meters, and this is definitely a fingering to sport weight 2-ply skein. Really happy with this one. Really love how this has turned out. And then I also spun up this skein out of some fibre that I got from Spin City UK at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I call this one a mystery braid. I know it's a wool and some plant fibres mixed in there. I just don't know what wool or which plant fibres, I can't remember. It didn't come with a tag. I know Louise did tell me when I purchased it what was in it, but I can't remember because I didn't write it down, which is a bit silly. And this is a 2-ply, 105 grams, 383 yards or 350 meters. So again, a pretty solid fingering weight with some sport weight bits in there. And I spun this as another kind of sort of fractal. So I split the braid in half, and I pre-drafted half of it, and I just spun it end to end. And then with the other half, I broke up the braid into color sections, and then I made rolags out of the colors. So I grouped all like the blue-green colors together, like the cool colors, made one set of rolags, and then with the warmer colors, like the oranges and yellows, I made another set of rolags and spun those end to end, alternating between them. So I did like a blue-green one, and then a yellow-orange one, and a blue-green one, like that, and then plied it with the half that I just spun straight. So it was kind of a fractal, a type of fractal, or colour management skein, and I feel like, and I've read this before, that when you pre-draft fibre it can tend to mute the colours a bit more, and especially with this braid had quite a fair amount of undyed or lighter sections in it, so when it was pre-drafted it sort of really brought out the lighter side of it, and it really muted down the colours a bit, which I really quite liked, and I actually think it would work really well with this skein. They're very similar colours in them, just these ones are a lot more muted than in this one, obviously. So maybe some sort of like striping project with these two. I don't know, that's just a thought. I think they go quite well together because they're similar sort of colour families. Move those out of the way. Then also from Spin City UK, I had this really fun art mat from her, which I got as a Christmas present from Perry. This was her mermaid art mat, and I will be honest, the colours in this bat look a lot different in the bat that I received compared to the photo on the website. So I was a little bit disappointed in that it was a lot more like of this lighter blue green colour than the amount of purple that was shown in the photo on her website. So I expected the braid to be I expected the bat to have more purple in it than it did. But having said that, it's still a beautiful bat and it's turned into beautiful yarn. So I'm not like overall disappointed in the end, but like initially I was like, oh okay, that wasn't quite the colour that I was expecting. But I just really like this one little loop bit that got stuck out here. It is a spiral plied with some coils and beehives in there. Just some really fun textures to play with. And I don't have a jumbo bobbin, I don't have a large orifice on my spinning wheel. It is just the standard flyer attachment. I have a Kromsky Sonata spinning wheel, and so yeah, I was able to make, you know, you can make art yarn without having a jumbo bobbin and flyer, which although that would be helpful, is not necessary. It just means I had to be careful not to do really giant coils and beehives just to avoid any potential issues of them getting through the orifice. And so this was just a spiral bit of one ply that got a bit loose. It just created this little loop at the top, which I just think is really fun. And yeah, so this turned out to be, so I just plied it with itself. It's just a 2-ply, and it's 127 grams, 144 yards, 132 meters. So this is a definite sort of like Aran bulky weight yarn. And I just think it would be really fun as just a textured cowl or a hat or even mittens. I think it would be quite fun. Just something really fun and textured, maybe paired with something else. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm thinking, because it's not really quite my colour wheelhouse for me to wear these sorts of colours, so I think I might put this as a prize for the spin and make along. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Then when was it? Not this Friday just gone, the Friday previous, I sat down with Layla. I was doing, Layla was colouring, and I was making some rolags. And this was the first time that I sat down to prep fibre around her, like while she was around. I mean, she sees my fibre obviously in my yarn. It's all out and about where she can see it, but I've never sat down to actually make rolags while she's been around. So this is the first time she was watching me do it. And I made one set of rolags, and she was just getting really interested by the end of it, and she saw me rolling the rolags off, and she loves to roll things. So she was like, all right, I want to roll. And so she came and sat next to me, and she helped me with the next couple of sets of rolags that I made, although they didn't end up being rolags, they ended up being rologs just because she wouldn't let me help her. So she was just rolling it all the way off. And with each set that I was making, she was just doing more of it, to the point where after I'd made my third set of rolags, she wanted to do one all herself. So I let her pick out some fibre, and she lashed it onto the board, and she brushed it down herself. There was a couple of times she asked me to help her, which I did, but then we pulled off the fibre and we sat down, we spun it together, and we made this yarn. So this is my little nugget, little Layla's first yarn that she's made with the spinning wheel. I say she made, I technically spun it. She sat on my lap while I spun and plied it, but she definitely helped make the fibre, like prepare the fibre. So there is a little vlog actually of us doing this on this channel as well. You can find that. It's probably 1 or 2 videos back now, and yeah, we had a really fun time doing that. I look forward to doing things like this more with her as she gets older, and she can get more involved. that was really fun. It was just a cute little sample, which I'll probably keep and show her again when she's a bit older. I did another little sample spin, which I won't talk about much now. I'll talk more about this later when I actually finish this project. It was just a little sample to see how it would work. And so then going back to the fibre that I was prepping with Layla around, I spun it up and I did a couple of experiments. So first things first, the blend, it was all the colours, the coloured fibres are all merino. And then I purchased some faux cashmere and I wanted to try it out. So I blended them with some faux cashmere in the Rolags just to try out spinning with faux cashmere. And it was actually quite a fun experience. It wasn't difficult to spin at all. So the first experiment was so I spun up all the singles on separate bobbins. And first experiment I did was a traditional 3-ply. I've never done a traditional 3-ply before. So that was quite exciting. So yellow, green and blue. So those were the 3 colours that I'd prepped. And then, so with this I got 23 grams, 31 yards, 28 meters. So not a huge amount of yardage, about a worsted Aran weight. But it was interesting, and it was more about trying the technique than actually having something usable at the end of it. With this particular spin, it was very much about experimenting with the technique and the finished result to see how it would look. And this one is actually really exciting. I'd seen a couple of videos about this on YouTube, and I really wanted to try it out because it seemed like a really interesting technique and a fun way to achieve this kind of yarn without having a lacy cake that can take a ton of bobbins. So this is 64 grams and I got 67 yards, 61 meters, again about an Aran weight. And this, I'm not sure how well you can tell, it's a 4-ply yarn, but out of 2 singles, and it's not a cable ply. So what I did was, it's a chain ply with another strand of singles held along with it. So the chain ply creates a 3-ply, so you can see here the chain ply is in the yellow, and then I held the single of the green along with it as I was plying. So then the green forms the 4th ply, so you get a 4-ply out of it. So what I did was I did the yellow with the green as the 4th ply, and then when the yellow ran out, I did the blue as the chain ply with the green as the 4th ply again. And yes, that was a really interesting experiment, and it was just fun to see how that was going to work out. And it does make a very round yarn. So I can see this being great for something like socks or for cables particularly. It's a very round, very plump, very dense yarn. That's probably more to do with how I plied it than anything else. Just like the ply twist that I put into it. Could definitely do with being applied a little bit less tightly next time maybe, but it does form a very round yarn. So it was interesting. And that, like I said, that was just an experiment to see how it would look. But I mean, there is a usable amount of yardage here between the 2 of them to do something like a hat or something. We shall see. Maybe something for Layla. Then next up, I spun a monster of a skein. Now this was for a video, and the video hasn't been published yet, so a little sneak peek here. This giant skein is 370 grams. It's 677 yards or 620 meters. So it's a pretty dense worsted weight yarn. It is, if you watched the video that I published about how to make mini bats on a blending board, these are those bats spun up. So I did a video about different ways that you can spin a bat, and this is the end result of that video. Like I said, the video's not been published yet. It will be soon. And I spun up the bats as singles end to end, one colour after another, and then I plied it with a grey sock yarn. Now I'd only wound up one skein of sock yarn, thinking I'd only have about 400 meters. I don't know why I thought it'd be that low out of 150 grams of fibre. And I did end up spinning the singles thinner than I had anticipated. So I ran out of the sock yarn that I was plying it with. So then I had to wind up another skein of sock yarn, like just a neutral grey that I had left over, and finished plying it with that. So in total, 2 skeins of sock yarn and 150 grams of fibre went into this. So it's 370 grams in total. and it is a monster of a skein. My plan was to knit Layla a skirt, but I feel like this is just too much fibre for just a skirt for a toddler, so I'm not entirely sure what this is going to be now. I was thinking maybe crocheting a skirt because that uses up more yarn, but I don't know. I'm also thinking maybe doing a wrap skirt, so just knitting a really long rectangle and then putting some, like attaching some ribbon to the top, or putting some eyelets in the top to like thread ribbon through, and then she can just wrap it around her waist and tie it on. It's really meant, the idea of it was just for her to use it as like a play skirt again, because she's really likes to have a dancing skirt and dance and prance around with something on. So I thought maybe something like that. If you have any ideas about skirts or something along those lines that I could knit for Layla or crochet for her, and if it's a crochet pattern, it has to be super simple. I am not a crocheter, but I'm willing to try. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, let me know, because I would like to make something for her out of this. The other thought I had was crocheting a little baby blanket for her baby doll, which might be something that I do as well if I can't think of it, because it's quite a lot and it's quite heavy. I'm just worried that it's a bit heavy to be something that she wears. So I don't know. I feel like it would just keep falling down even if it is tied on. I don't know. Anyway, ideas and thoughts, welcome, thank you. And then another little skein. This was again another little sampler skein. It is 57 grams, 114 yards, 104 meters, and it's a pretty solid worsted weight, I would say. I was practicing again with long draw, and also with trying out some different fibers, and also some sort of fractal spinning idea that I had as well. I didn't film this. The red is a Polworth silk, the green is Corriedale, and the white fibers are Rambouillet. And there's also some sari silk in there as well, so that's some multicolored bits in there. You can't actually see it all that much in the skein right now, but there is a fair amount of sari silk in this. It's just maybe the way it's twisted up, you can't really see it, but there's a lot of sari silk in there too. And so what I did was I did one set of Rolags, just the green with Rambouillet and sari silk. I did one set of short Rolags. I'm not sure why I did short ones, but short Rolags of the red Polworth silk with Rambouillet and sari silk. And then I did one set half red, half green with the Rambouillet and sari silk. And then I spun the half and half Rolags end to end. So there was 4 of those, and then on one bobbin, and then I spun the green Rolags and then the red Rolags onto another bobbin, so all the green then all the red, and then I plied them together. So there's a section at the beginning of the skein which is one ply all red and the other ply moves between red and green, and then it goes to being one ply all green, and then the other ply moving through green and red to sort of like fractal that way. And then at the end there was a bunch of green left over, so then we just had a green 2-ply bit at the end to finish off the skein. Like I said, this was just a sample, but it's actually, considering I did it a more woolen spun, it's definitely a lot lighter and floofier feeling in the hand as well. So not sure what this will be, maybe a little baby hat or something. And the last thing, absolutely last thing I have to show you for spinning is this skein. This is a, if you saw the Rolags that I showed you last time, these were the autumn leaves inspired ones, like the oranges and browns and golden yellows. So this was 140 grams, it was all merino, and there was I think some other mystery fibre like the white which was blended in. I think it was like a tencel or something. And I got 321 yards, 294 meters, and it's a pretty solid DK weight chain ply. And this was the first time that I really made a solid effort with the plying to not overlap the colours at all. And for the most part I did absolutely fine on that, except for one section where I was transitioning from the brown to the yellow of the next Rolag, and I forgot to pay attention to that, and so there's a bit of overlap there, but that's only one place. So I think I did pretty good for the first time that I was really consciously trying not to overlap them. The bits where you see some marling with the white, that's just the white that it's like mystery fibre, I think it's a tencel that I blended throughout the Rolags, so there's definitely patches of that throughout, but I really quite like that. I think it adds a bit of interest to it. And so now I have the other set of row lags to spin up, which were the daffodil inspired ones, like the yellows and greens. I'm going to do the same thing with that one, and then I'm going to knit them end to end. So first this and then that in a tubular cowl like style, like this, not necessarily, not this pattern, but this style of it being a tube, and then seam the ends together. And then so one half of the cowl would be these autumn colours and the other half would be spring colours. Depending on how you wrap it round, you can have one colour showing or the other. So this one's also being filmed, but obviously not ready to publish that yet because I have to spin up the other set of row lags. But yeah, really excited about this one as well. So that's all that I've been spinning lately, which is a lot, and I haven't even been spinning for the last few days. I really haven't spun at all the last 3-4 days. Sorry if you can hear that noise in the background. Someone's cleaning our windows, which I didn't realise was happening today, so that's what that noise is. Other things I've been doing, I've been playing on the blending board a bit more for making up these really fun row lags. So these are a gradient of reds, so I'm not sure how well you can tell, but these ones, these two, they go from a dark red to a lighter red in the middle and then back around to a darker red at the end of the row lag. So I've got 4 in that order, and then I have 4 that start with the lighter end, go to the darker and then back to the lighter at the other end. So I thought this is a really fun little set like this, and it's blended with, so it's red, 3 shades of red merino, and there's some white and black merino in there as well. So these are all, this is just 100% merino fibre. I don't know what you guys think. I know I said I wasn't going to go ahead and like start making row lags to sell and stuff. I have lots of ideas of things that I want to try out with the blending board and like fibres I want to put together and blend up, but I don't necessarily have time to spin it all. So I'm thinking maybe every now and again having a few things, put them up for sale and stuff. I don't know if you guys would be interested in that. If you would be, let me know. Would you prefer it on Etsy, or if I just did it through Instagram, like fairly casually? All like transactions would be done through PayPal. Like I would invoice you if it was done through Instagram, through PayPal, so it's all like tracked that way. But let me know what you think, if you'd be interested in something like that, because it would be fun, I think, every now and again. It wouldn't be anything super formal, it wouldn't be like massive updates or anything. It would just be a few bits here and there as and when I have time to put them together. I feel like Instagram would just be easier and less hassle. Etsy can be quite expensive with the fees and stuff, and and you know, photographing listings and stuff like that. I just feel like Instagram would be easier and quicker. But let me know what you guys think. And then as for knitting and spinning plans, like I said, I have some plans coming up. So 2 of my best friends are having babies later this year, and I'm so excited for them. Both of their first babies, and one's due at the end of September, one's due early December, so fairly close together. And so I am planning some baby knits. So yeah. So I'm planning to knit both the babies double Dutch cardigans, which was a cardigan pattern that I designed for my daughter, and again published. It is available on Ravelry, and I'm thinking of doing one each in these. I'm going to do them in the newborn size, or like the smallest size that I have. I think it's 0 to 3 months. And I'm going to use, this is skein of Into the World, the Mildly Amusing colourway on the Pakoku DK, which I knit my mix and match sweater out of, and so this was a skein I had left over from that. So I think I will use this for one of them. And then for the other one, I will use this Roasted Pumpkin colour from Yarn Cafe Creations. It's a DK weight, 245 yards and 100 grams. It's a 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon, so that's really fun. And then I also want to knit each of their respective children. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl for either of them. They both want to keep it a surprise, which I'm all for that. And neither of them are super into like gendered clothing anyway, so I was told strictly no pink and no pastels. So I also want to knit them each a garden gnome hoodie in a slightly larger size, so probably like 6-month-ish size. And so I have these yarns picked out. So this one I thought would be really fun to marl these 2 purples together. And so this purple is actually looking a lot lighter on camera than it is in real person. It's definitely a slightly more muted purple than it's showing up on camera. These were bought from Old Maiden Art, and I got these at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And then these 2 were a gift from a friend, who used to dye and doesn't dye anymore, but I thought these would be really fun together as well. So just marling them a little bit because it is a variegated yarn, for another garden gnome hoodie. And because I'm doing the slightly bigger size, I'm not actually sure if one skein would be enough because it does have a hood. I need to double check the yardages in that pattern, but I'm thinking these for those. And then with the leftover yarns from these, I might do some like matching socks or a hat or something else for the babies as well. So I'm kind of pairing them up like this. So for each kid. And I would also like to do blankets for them, either knit or sewn or crocheted even. So I'm currently eyeing up yarns on Knit Picks because Knit Picks is really affordable for yarns, especially for larger projects like blankets and things, and especially because I want them to be machine washable. I have plenty of yarn in my stash that I could use to make baby blankets. Sorry if you can hear that water noise in the background, it's the window cleaners. But they're not machine washable, and both of my friends, they are super knit worthy. They've loved everything I've ever knit for them, but at the same time, being new parents, I know what it's like and how overwhelming it is, and I really don't want to put them in a position of having to deal with hand washing knitwear, you know, when they're dealing with a newborn, new baby and all that sort of stuff. I'm willing to do it because I know it's easy for me to deal with hand knits. I deal with it all the time. But for someone who doesn't necessarily deal with it all the time, who's a non-knitter, you know, I just don't want to put that pressure on them. I don't want to put them in that position. And also, like, I was very fortunate. Layla was not a spit-uppy baby. She barely spit up at all. Like, the issues we had with her throwing up and stuff didn't happen until after she was 1. Like, she was a lot older when that started happening. As a newborn, she barely ever spit up or vomited or anything like that. So she rarely got her clothes that dirty. Like, I didn't have to change her all that often. I was always told, oh, you'll be constantly changing her because she'll be spitting up and this, that, or whatever. But she never really did. She was not that kind of baby, and we were very fortunate. But you never know. So I want to make sure I am making them things that are easy to wash, easy to take care of, and especially with a baby blanket as well. Like, I don't want it to have to be super delicate. So I'm eyeing up ideas for that as well. Haven't settled on anything, but one of them, their baby shower, is actually in a couple of weeks, so I need to get cracking. At least get one sweater done for the baby, so I can have something to give her. And yeah, really excited for them to have their babies and like to have little babies to cuddle again. Anyway, as for spinning plans, so other than spinning the other half of this fibre, the other rolags for this fibre, I was sorting through my stash and sort of reorganizing my cabinets a little bit. I tend to do that every couple of months, just pull out the stuff in my cabinets, reorganize it. It's nice to give your stuff a bit of an airing as well, re-sort through things and re-put stuff back in. It also reminds you what you have, which is nice. And I was looking at this, which I got recently from Hilltop Cloud, this really fun sort of gradient set in the Holly Festival colourway. It's the top, it's 28% Shetland, 15% mulberry silk and 57% merino. It's a really fun blend. It's 140 grams. And I was looking at it, I was like, these colours look really familiar. Like, I feel like I have something in this colour set already. Lo and behold, I have this. I know, well, you can see that. Sorry, this way would be better. There you go. It's, oh, geez. The window cleaners are being a bit aggressive with the brush. Sorry, they're not on like pulleys or anything, they just have a really long handled brush that they're just cleaning the windows with, and just made me jump. So it's basically the same colours. Turn around so you can see. It's really hard to tell with the glare on this plastic, but I think it'd be really fun to spin these up as little mini skeins, and then sort of like mix them with this, or to make rolags out of this fibre and then spin the rolags end to end, sort of 2-ply them in like the opposite direction, so definitely getting barber poling going on, or maybe doing some kind of fractal with this and then mixing it with these mini skeins in the solids. I think that would be really fun. And this is an MCN blend, these mini skeins. I picked these up at my very first Rhinebeck, so they're super special. There's 840 yards in here in total. So depending on how much yardage I get out of this, there will be a ton of yarn at the end of it. Depending on what kind of weight this turns out as, if it ends up being more of like a DK weight, then I might hold this yarn double to kind of match the weight a little bit. But we'll see. That's kind of an idea that I have, and I think it would be a really fun subject for a video to do as a separate video. Preparing this, spinning this, and then coming up with an idea of what to do with it at the end of the day. Because I actually think it'd be really fun. It's a really fun way to play with texture, I think, in your knitting or your crochet, to mix hand spun with commercially spun yarn. And it's something from when I very first started to spin, was something that was at the back of my mind of something I would like to do. So I think that would be a really fun first experiment, especially since the colours are such a perfect match. I think I like the idea of going for the Rolags option with the gradient fibre, and then spinning those to get a barber pole yarn to mix with the solids of the mini skeins that I have. I think that would be really fun. Okay, so quickly moving on to acquisitions. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot, but I have a few little things to share with you. So first up, I was contacted by the lovely Mari. I'm trying to remember how she pronounces her name. Mari. She is Bad Betty Knits on Instagram, and she's been really active recently talking about size inclusivity in the knitting world with designers and stuff like that. And I've always strived to have my patterns be as inclusive as possible, not just with sizing, but also accounting for like ability as well, like making sure my patterns are as easy to follow, easy to read, easy to understand as possible, so people of all skill levels can use them. So yeah, anyway, if you want to know more about that, there's tons of stuff on Instagram about it right now, especially with Bad Betty Knits. She has really good stories on it. And recently she's come out with some new products. One of them are these really cute little swatch cards. So this one says, swatch today, swear less tomorrow. And it's a little card where you can put like swatch information on. Let me take them out. She sent me a little variety pack. So she has a few different designs. So there's one that says, swatch today, swear less tomorrow. You can put the information like the pattern gauge and then your gauge. So you can see there's a difference there. There's also a spot on the back where you can put other information like pattern, needles, yarn, color, fiber, and there's also little ruler measurements on the side, so you can even use this to measure gauge with, which is quite cool. And you can purchase these from badbettyknits.com. She did send them to me for review. There's a couple that says, should I swatch? Everyone's doing it. It's in the style of these sort of like vintage humorous cards. I think they're really funny. And there's another one that says, you don't swatch? I too like to live life dangerously. Like to live dangerously, sorry. And then this one is my favorite. It says, swatches are lying liars that lie, except this one, of course. And I think these will be really handy for me, especially when I'm designing, because I do pretty decent sized swatches, or at least I try to when I'm designing, and then I can just like stick a little swatch tag to it, so when I come back to sit down and write my write the pattern up, I have all the information on here and I don't have to worry about remeasuring the swatch or trying to note it down somewhere and remembering where I put it. So it'd be quite fun to actually tag my swatches with these, and I might put a couple of them in price packages and stuff as well. So thank you so much to Mari for these. I look forward to trying them out. I think it's a really fun idea. And she's also got some gift tags that she's made as well for when you're gifting your hand knits. And there was one really funny one. I think it was something along the lines of, you have been deemed knit worthy, don't wreck it, or you know, funny things like that. Just go check out her Instagram, it's hilarious. And then a couple of weeks ago now, I met up with the lovely Carly, who's Falula on Instagram, and she also has a little podcast as well, where she podcasts sporadically. And I met up with her and her little boy Fox a few weeks ago with Layla. We went to a trampoline park nearby and we went jumping, and Layla loved it so much. And we had a great time. It was so much fun to hang out with her and for Layla to play with Fox for a little bit. He's a couple of years older than her, so it's really fun seeing them play together. And then Carly gave me a little something. She had this fibre that she'd won, but she's not spinning at the moment, so she wanted to give it to me. And it's from Fondant Fibre, and it's her fuzzlings. So Fondant Fibre is a UK-based dyer, so it's 5 or 6 little fiber nests in different colours. So I think these will be really fun, either to just spin straight as they are or to blend up on the blending board with other fibres as well. So thank you, Carly, for these. These will be really fun to play with. I'm pretty sure I know which one Layla will like. And then I went to there's a shop in the UK called Hobbycraft, which is kind of like Michael's in the US, and I went there with Layla a couple of weeks ago. I was looking for something, and we were looking around, and I spotted these assorted red buttons, and of course Layla gravitated straight towards the red ones and was like, I want these. And I was like, you know what, actually I knit a fair bit for Layla, and sticking red buttons on things much like this, it would be useful to have a variety of red buttons. I also went to pick up some embroidery hoops. So I had this one already from Michael's that I got in the US, but I picked up 2 other sizes because I mentioned, I think it was last time or maybe the time before, that I might want to try out some circular weaving. So I wanted to have a couple of different sized embroidery hoops to play around with that concept. A couple of other little bits and pieces. But I also, in the yarn section at Hobbycraft, found some Regia yarn that was on, I think it was on sale as well, so it wasn't that expensive at all. So I picked up 2 balls in a matching colour. This is colour number 5478, I believe. Yeah, 5478. It's just your standard Regia 75-25 wool nylon blend. Yeah, it's just their 4-ply, and it will knit up in this sort of striping pattern there. And yeah, so that's basically it. And I also got a couple of books. One, I actually have the physical book here, and the other one is on its way. So first up, I picked up this book, Yarnitecture. It was very highly recommended by a lot of you, so I wanted to check this out, and so far I've enjoyed browsing it and dipping in and out of it. There's some really good information in here. And also the other one that I got was by Alana Wilcox. She's Spinny Buns on Instagram, and she's published a book called A New Spin on Colour. Now, she contacted me to see if she could send me a copy for review, and I said absolutely, would love to. But I also wanted to support her because she's self-published, and I know how much work goes into those things. I mean, I've never self-published a book or done anything like that, but I can imagine how much work goes into publishing a book. So I purchased the ebook version of it myself, and she's sending me a hard copy, like a physical copy, as well in the post. So that's very generous of her to do that. But I've purchased the ebook, like I said, and I've already started reading it, and that's also a really interesting read. Really, it was interesting because I've learned a lot from it already, and it's reaffirmed things that I've learned myself just through experimenting, and it's sort of just reaffirmed the things that I've learned. So it's quite nice to have some things confirmed and some things that are new, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's an interesting concept, or that's interesting, that might be something I want to try. So definitely giving me lots of things to think about that I might want to have a go at in the future. And as with this book as well, if you're interested, let me know. Would you be interested in me doing like a dedicated review video, like going through these 2 books, like when the other book arrives as well, and sort of like doing a bit of a review of some of the things that I found useful, some like pros and cons. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't done a whole lot of like review type things like this of books, but if you're interested in hearing my views on it, maybe I could do that at some point, maybe in the next month or 2, once I've had a chance to read through it a bit more, maybe try a few experiments, and I can show you what those look like as well. Yeah, so let me know if you'd be interested in that, and I will be happy to oblige. And that's it for acquisitions, which is absolutely fine because I don't need to get a whole bunch more. I did actually get a little bit more fibre from World of Wool, but I've already put that all away. It's just some little bits for blending with, so you'll see that as and when it comes up with my spinning. In terms of other things, so Knitalong and giveaway news. Knitalongs, like I mentioned before, we have the Minilicious Pattern Club going at the moment, and we also have a sweater Knitalong going as well. There was the Sock Club Knitalong, but that has now ended. So for the Sock Club Knitalong, I have drawn prizes, and I've already filmed the prize winners video. I'm not sure if that's going to go up before or after the podcast, but it will be up either just before or just after this video. And so please check out that video if you took part in the Sock Club and entered I finished a pair of socks. There were 146 entries and I picked 6 prizes, so your odds of winning are pretty good. And then I've also filmed a giveaway video for some handspun that I'm giving away for the spin and make along. And again, not sure if that video will be up before or after this video, but it will be up soon. And I filmed them all today, so I'll be wearing the same outfit in all of them. But yeah, so the idea of that giveaway was to give away some handspun to people who want to take part in the spin and make along, but maybe who aren't spinners themselves and maybe can't get hold of handspun for whatever reason to take part, but want to take part still. So you can enter into that giveaway in the comment section of that particular video. So don't enter here, enter in that video. And like sometime in the first week of July, I will draw winners for that. And then what else do we have going on? I think that's it in terms of knit-alongs and giveaway news. I gave you all the information about the upcoming pattern for the Minilicious Pattern Club, and I think that's it for that one. I don't think I'm missing anything out. But in terms of doing a quick little weeks in review, what's been going on recently. So like I mentioned a couple of weekends ago, actually earlier in that particular week, Perry got really sick. He got really ill. He came down with like a tummy bug. It was really bad one evening, like the first day when it happened, like after Layla went to bed. I told him like he needs to, like, we have an emergency. If you're not in the UK, we have a service here called 111. So you call and you get to speak to a doctor or a nurse or someone, and if it's out of hours, and you can speak to them and they can give you advice on what you should do next, like in terms of like medical advice, whether you need to go to A&E or if you need to go and see your doctor in the morning, or, you know, depending on how much of an emergency the situation is. And I was like, look, you're really not well and you need to call them and find out what to do, because this isn't something where you just take a paracetamol and hope it goes away type of situation. It was pretty bad. He was struggling to like sit up and like without feeling really ill and stuff. Anyway, without going into details, he called and they advised that he go to A&E because it was quite late in the evening by this point. So he unfortunately had to take a taxi because I had to stay home with Layla, who was asleep. And so he went to hospital and they kept him there for a few hours, ran a few tests, gave him an IV because he was quite dehydrated. And thankfully it was nothing serious. At one point they thought it might be something that was like super serious and pretty deadly and would need immediate surgery, at which point I was like, well, I'm not going to sleep now, am I? I'm gonna have to wait for you to get home. Not that I was gonna sleep before he got home anyway, but there was no chance of me being able to sleep without finding out that he was okay. Thankfully, nothing serious, just a stomach bug, but not fun nonetheless. And then, so then Thursday he was in bed all day, Layla was at nursery, so it wasn't a problem. And then Friday, we'd already planned that we were supposed to go down to see my parents for the weekend. We were going to go down Saturday, and but he was really unwell on Friday as well, so there's no way he's coming to London. He's not going to be able to sit in the car for like 2 hours. So I called my mum, be like, look, he's really ill, there's a good chance me and Layla also have it, even though we're not showing symptoms yet. Do you still want us to come? Like, do you want to risk getting sick as well? My mum hadn't seen Layla for about a month. She'd just been away traveling, so she was like, yes, come, I don't care, come. If I get sick, I get sick, doesn't matter. So I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, there's no point waiting till Saturday now. Might as well just go down, might as well just pack up and go now. Because originally we were waiting for Saturday because Perry was going to be working on Friday, but I was like, well, let's just go. So I loaded up the car with Layla and we headed off. Now, I wasn't feeling particularly great. I wasn't feeling horrendous, like I wasn't bedridden like Perry was, but I wasn't feeling 100%. And then, so we got up to London, all fine. Like I said, by the end of the day, still not feeling 100% great, but okay enough. Saturday, woke up, I couldn't get out of bed on Saturday. I was so sick. I basically had the same thing Perry had. I was so sick on Saturday, it was absolutely just gone. And then to top it off, I also had conjunctivitis. So that was fun. 2 weeks after Layla had it, I finally got it. So the weekend was a bit of a wash, so I spent most of it resting. Sunday afternoon my aunt and uncle came round, so it was nice to see them. And then Monday I headed back home with Layla and spent most of last week just recovering, to be honest. And then this weekend was Father's Day on Sunday, And for Father's Day, Perry wanted just a day to himself to do whatever he wanted. So I took Layla to catch up with my family. We went strawberry picking. I should preface this by saying that Perry took Layla out all day on Saturday. So they had a daddy-daughter day, catching up with one of Perry's schoolmates and his family. And I got to catch up with some of my friends. And then on Sunday, I took Layla to a pick your own farm where we picked strawberries with my family, and we had a great time. It was the first time I'd ever taken Layla strawberry picking. She absolutely loved it. I swear she ate her own weight in strawberries. She had so much fun. And there's a little vlog about that as well up on the channel, which you can check out if you'd like. It's only a few minutes long. I hadn't really planned on vlogging that day, but I ended up taking a few video clips to show Perry later because he hadn't come. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll put it all together into a little video because it'll be quite nice to commemorate and be able to look back and remember her first day, her first time strawberry picking. And yeah. That's pretty much it. So in other news for this week, Jacqueline is coming to stay. Jacqueline's over in Europe at the moment with her sister. They are traveling around for a little bit and they're going to come and stay with us for a few days. So they'll be getting here tomorrow afternoon. So tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly when this video is going to go up, but they'll be getting here tomorrow afternoon and they'll be staying until the weekend. So that'll be really fun. I'll be spending some time with them in the next couple of days. And then this weekend I think we've got a 4-year-old's birthday party that we're going to on Saturday, and then I'm not sure what we're doing on Sunday. I think we're catching up with one of Layla's nursery friends on Sunday, and her family, obviously, not just her nursery friend. And then just taking it easy, and then it'll be next week and there'll be more things going on. So just looking forward to the next few weeks. Hopefully summer shows up sometime with the weather. It sort of comes and goes. It teases us. We get 1 or 2 nice days and then it's like a week of rain, and there's like 1 or 2 nice days and then another week of rain. It's like, make up your mind, just be summer for once. All right, I feel like I've chatted for ages now. I have a feeling this is gonna be a really long episode. I hope you guys don't mind. Let me know, would you rather I split the spinning section into like a separate podcast, or do you mind it all just being in one? Let me know what you think. I'm asking you guys a lot of opinions in this episode. I hope you guys don't mind. Anyway, I love hearing your comments and hearing your thoughts on things, so that's why I like asking you guys for your input. And yeah, so I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye.